We are looking at question 2, or part 2, I guess, of free response 2. And in this question, we are given a graph that shows the supply and demand of a good and the supply when we add in a tax right here. And we're asked a series of questions about this, and we're going to give our answers, some in numbers that we're going to be able to compute, and some in just identifying the areas based on these letter, these capital letter codes that identify each of these areas. They're all triangles except for D, right? Okay. Now let's get started here. So using the labeling on the graph. Also it's important to know this is a per unit tax, So that's going to shift our marginal cost curve to the left when you have a per unit tax. And just a general tax, applied to just a lump sum tax would shift your average total cost curve, but a per unit tax shifts your marginal cost or your supply curve to the left. Okay. Now we need to using the labeling, we need to identify the equilibrium price and quantity before tax. Now that's easy, right? It's right where the original supply curve intersects with a demand. So we have a quantity of 100 and a price of $12 right here. Okay, that point right there. We want to show the area, or we want to identify the area representing consumer surplus and producer surplus before tax. So let's jump over here. I've got that graph here, and the consumer surplus is going to be this area right here. The area that is above the price but below the demand curve, or the marginal benefit curve. Remember, demand is the same thing as marginal benefit. So you just want to say that the area of consumer surplus is A, B, C, and F. And don't worry about this number here. That's something I'll talk about later. But anyway, we are just identifying the area of consumer surplus based on the labeling. And let me get rid of that. That shouldn't even be there. Okay, so A, B, C, and F. Now, we want to identify the area of producer surplus, and that's going to be, and this is before a tax, so with our market equilibrium right here, right? So that's going to be the area below the price and above the marginal cost or supply curve right here. So that is area DEG or GDE, or however, whatever order you want to put it in is fine, as long as you include DEG. Okay, so that is the consumer in green and the producer in blue surplus before the tax. Now we want to assume that the tax is now imposed, and based on the graph, does the price paid by the buyers rise by the full amount of the tax? Explain. Well, the answer is no. If we look over here, we can see that with the shift up in the tax, and we can see the amount. If we look, the amount is going to be the distance vertically between the two curves, like that, right? So that's going to be $2. Okay, and you can also see it right, sorry about that. You can also see it right here. Okay, so now if we look at the price before the tax is imposed, right, let me just get that out of the way, right here, which is 12, and then once the tax is imposed, imposed and the supply curve shifts to the left, we end up with a new equilibrium right here. We can see that the price has only gone up by $1. So the consumers, the buyers, are only going to have to absorb half of this $2 tax. You see that the tax is actually $2 from here to here, or here to here, or you can look anywhere, along here, and you can easily see that the amount of the tax is $2. And if the price only goes up by 1, and this is because of the shape or the elasticity of the demand curve, right? If it was more inelastic, if I were to draw it like this, right here, then you would have the $2 tax would be imposed. Whoops, sorry about that. Let me undo that. Then you would have a situation where you would shift to instead of going, let me get that out of the way. Instead of going from here to here, you're going from here to here, so that you don't lose. So if the demand is more inelastic, the consumers end up paying a much higher price, a much larger portion of the tax, and the producers don't have to cut back near as much on their production. Okay, so that's, you can put in your explanation for a number. Let me just delete this and just go back. So your explanation for B is, does the price paid by the buyers rise by the full amount of the tax? The answer is no, and part of your explanation could be because demand is relatively elastic, they're only going to pay half of the tax, and you also can say that a price only rises by $1. It's going from 12 to 13. So that's very obviously shows that only half of the of this tax is paid by the consumer. Now, enough about that, right? Let's go on to part where are we? Part C. Okay. Using the labeling, identify the following after the tax is imposed. The net price received by sellers. Okay, well, we go back over here, we can see that the quantity produced right here is going to drop down to 80, and the marginal cost at that point is 11. So we can assume that the amount that the producers are going to receive for each unit is going to be $11, and then the other 2 goes to the tax, because the price the consumers are paying is 13, and the amount that the suppliers or the producers are receiving is $2 less, or $11. Okay, $11. The amount of tax revenue. Okay, the amount of tax revenue, let's jump back over here and move these guys out of the way, and we can put our tax revenue right in here. Okay, now it's probably easier to identify either way. So the tax is here because you're going to have the $2, and you're going to have that multiplied by the quantity produced. So the tax revenue is going to be 2 times, actually I did that wrong. Wow. This should be 80 quantity times $2, right? Okay. And that's going to be a tax revenue of 160. So you can put the amount in, but you also want to identify the area by B plus C plus D. Okay, that's the area of the tax revenue. Because the producers are getting 11, the consumers are paying $2 more at a price of 13. So $2 for $2 for every unit is going to the tax man. Okay. Now, the area representing consumer surplus is now going to be, let's jump back over here, a much smaller triangle. It's going to be this area A. Okay, it's going to be the area above price and below the demand. So you can just put, you're just going to have to put area A, because since we don't have any numbers and there's no, I tried to put a quantity in here and get the math to work, but it doesn't. So let's just don't go there. This is just whatever it is. So you just have to say that the new or the after-tax consumer surplus is area A. Okay. The after-tax producer surplus is going to be area E, and you can calculate that also because you've got dollar amounts here, so you can also calculate the original a triangle, which would be 1/2 times the base, which is times the height. So the original producer surplus was $100, and you could put that in your answer. And the producer surplus after the tax is imposed is 1/2 base right here, 0 to 80. So it's 1/2 times 80 times the height, which is now 1. So we have a new producer surplus of 40. So you got a loss there of 60. So that's that, right? Now we need to, let's see. The area representing deadweight loss. Well, that's going to be whatever is left after we have identified our consumer surplus, our producer surplus, and our tax revenue here in purple. Our deadweight loss is going to be whatever is left from the original combined surplus. That's going to be right in here. Areas F and G, and you can also calculate that. And this is not drawn to scale at all because they've got zero. They got the distance from 0 to 80, just about equal to the distance from 80 to 20 to 100, which is only 20 right here. So this is not drawn to a scale. So don't let that confuse you. But the area can be identified for deadweight loss is F plus G, and you can calculate that by just multiplying 1/2 times the base times the height, which is 2, and you can say we have a deadweight loss of $20. So theoretically, since we have a total, we have a loss of 20 and a tax revenue of 160 coming out of our original combined consumer and producer surplus, and we know that we lost $60 in a producer surplus. We can theoretically say that this is 180 minus 60. We can say we theoretically lost 120 in consumer surplus, but we really can't show it on the graph because we don't have the amount here. And I tried trial and error and couldn't get the math to work, so don't worry about that. This is just a theoretical number based on everything else that we know, and I just wanted to point that out. The important thing is that you identify all of the areas and you answer all the questions, and the only time you really need to put in the amounts is when they ask for it. Like for part C2, you want to make sure that you put in the amount. And I don't know if it's asking for, let's see. Oh, and also, let's see. I don't know if it's asking for the area for tax or not anywhere in here. Let me look. It's asking for consumer or producer. Assume tax. Let's see, net price, amount, area. No, it does not. But anyway, you can always put it in. You can always say that the area is B, C, and D for the tax, and the amount is going to be the area of this, which is 80 times 2, which is 160. Okay, that takes care of question 2 on free response 2. Okay.